不如影咗相先啦，好嘛？
我哋俾前排嘅攝記影咗先。
Now the journalists in front will first take photos, and then we allow those at the back to take photos.
咁請前排攝記踎低讓俾。
Now, journalists in the front, please, can you get down so the journalists at the back can take photos? Thank you.
因為中間就差唔多啦，唔該晒大家。
Okay, I think that's about it. Thank you.
時間差唔多啦，我哋就
Okay, it's time. We would like to get started.
咁請特首就座。
Chief Executive, please take a seat. Good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference on the Chief Executive's 2023 policy address. The Chief Executive will first do a presentation and then he will take questions from the floor. As you ask questions, please note that you should limit yourselves to no more than 2 questions because there are many journalists here. Please be concise too. So I now hand over to the Chief Executive. First of all, thank you all for coming to the auditorium here to attend this press conference on the policy address. There's actually more content in the policy address this year than last year's one because many have given us views, so I received many suggestions and I try to incorporate all the views as far as possible. So that's why it took longer for me to finish reading the policy address this year than last year. And of course, that means it will take you more time to cover the delivery. So thank you. Now here, I will like to highlight some salient points of the policy address. First, I'll tell you about my thoughts behind the policy address. And then, of course, later on, different secretaries of departments and directors' bureau will be hosting press conferences. I think there are some 10 press conferences. So I'll leave the details to them, and they can talk to you about that. But here I would like to talk about the broader ideas. First, when I drafted the policy address, my governing tenets is to uphold the one country, two systems, the economy and improve people's livelihoods. Because under the one country, two systems, we are a special administrative region of the country. So we must fully, faithfully and resolutely implement the one country, two system principles. So, and you see, we're doing much about that. And more importantly, we need to develop the economy and improve people's livelihoods. So, we must make sure we succeed on both fronts so that the people could actually benefit from our effort. As for my policy directions, they've remained the same when I assumed office. That is, I consider Hong Kong on 4 aspects. One, what advantages we have, what opportunities we have, what are our shortcomings, and what threats there are. So those have been my considerations. Now, I've looked at Hong Kong domestically and also the external environment because of the complex external environment. So in terms of our advantages, we need to enhance our advantages so we could leverage on them. And then with opportunities, that means we'll be able to forge into new fronts. And on the foundation we've built, we are able to do better. As for addressing our shortcomings and potential risks, as I mentioned, we may have certain weaknesses, but there may also be threats. That's why these are the 4 policy directions I take into account when formulating my policy address. On my policy objectives, now in the policy address, I've been talking about my policy objectives, but I could group them into 3 aspects. First of all, strengthening governance, because it doesn't matter how good our policies are, they have to be properly executed. And for policies to be executed, we have to consider 3 aspects. First, the institution. Second, our executive capacity. And thirdly, the results of our execution. So we need to work on all these fronts. Otherwise, even if we have good visions, they may not be realized. So that's why we will keep enhancing our governance. And then we want to develop the economy, as I said. And I've devoted many paragraphs to economic development in the policy address. I could talk to you more about that if you wish later. Now, if we want to strive for development, we want our economy to thrive, we want everyone to benefit from it, and then everyone will be happy. Let me first explain my ideas about strengthening governance. Now, I've talked about institutional setup, addressing our shortcomings and risks, so we could, and then we could also enhance our competitiveness. And we're doing a lot on that. For instance, we now have an financing structure for major infrastructural projects. If we want to develop the economy, we need to embark on various major infrastructural projects that includes the Northern Metropolis and the artificial islands. And we're talking about huge investment. Of course, they will also bring huge benefits. But in the interim, how can we ensure that our finances remain healthy? And then what means can we adopt to make sure these major infrastructure projects go ahead without hiccups? And more importantly, we need to ensure the sustainability of public finances. That's why in the policy address, I mentioned that we're going to consider some innovative ways on fundraising. We will involve the market to a substantial extent. And I've set up 6 offices. One is that will support the development of infrastructural projects, digital policy office, new industrialization development office, culture and creative industries development office, office on promoting Chinese culture and so on. And also there's a preparatory office for setting up a supervision center for Hong Kong drugs and medical devices and so on. So we have spent much time on coming with this structure. And so you can see that we are these aspects are important for us to compete with other places. And then in the next year, I'm going to complete the legislative exercise for Article 23, because for over 2 decades we have not fulfilled our constitutional duty. There are 2 legal requirements that is under Article 23 of the Basic Law. There is this requirement also in the National Security Law. There is this requirement. That's why next year we're going to complete this task. And then under one country, 2 systems, we must make sure there is proper national security education. And apart from the usual education efforts, we're going to set up exhibition gallery, and then we're going to have community-based efforts. That's why there will be community district-based tutor. And also within the civil service, all civil servants need to undergo national security training. Patriotic education. Now, the country has recently promulgated the law on patriotic education. So we need to dovetail with that development. We've actually started patriotic education. Our focus is on national education, in particular national identity, and learning more about our history. That's what we're doing now. But then in future, we are going to do more on all fronts with patriotic education. First, we're going to set up an office to promote Chinese culture. This is an important aspect of patriotic education. We're also going to set up 2 museums. One is for us to learn more about the country's development, its history, its various policies, and so on. There will be another museum on the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. Now, the details are set out in the policy address. And then we're going to improve the district governance system. Now, for the district council election, nomination period has started. It will end by the end of this month. And then we also have care teams in the 18 districts to provide service. So in terms of district governance, we have more or less completed the structure. On emergency response, I'd like to strengthen our capacity there. Say when we responded to the Super Typhoon Solar and the torrential rain, yes, we've seen improvements in our capacity. But we are going to see more threats coming from extreme weather. So that's why in a policy address, I've called for a strategic planning, say with the drainage system, with the prevention of landslips, and so on. So we're going to strengthen our planning and capacity. Now we have advanced development of technology, so we will see where more technologies could be applied to enhance our capacity. Of course, in the policy address, I've also stressed that for the whole Greater Bay Area, we would like to set up an effective mechanism for responding to emergencies and natural disasters, so we could complement on each other's strengths, and then there will be a joint mechanism for preventing disasters or responding to disasters. Now, I'd like to talk about economic development. Development is the key to resolving issues, because if we want to resolve issues, we need resources. For us to have resources, we need to have development. So with development, we will have the capacity to address more issues. And also with development, everybody will enjoy better quality of living. Of course, we don't just want to address issues. We do that because we want us to have a better way of life, a better quality of life, and everybody could pursue their dreams. So that's why we need to leverage or strengthen our advantages and seize upon opportunities. First, in terms of competitiveness, we must continue to strive for enterprises and talents, as well as nurture local talents. Competition around the world on this front is not going to stop. So as we try to enhance our edges, we need to keep doing this. We need to do better, because our competitors are always competing with us on the same fronts. So we must never let lose our effort. And secondly, we need to strengthen our advantages as the 8 centers. The 8 centers are in themselves an advantage, but now we have the backing of the country, because under the 14th five-year plan, the country wants us to develop these 8 centers well. So there will be support from the country. Together with our own advantages, they will complement each other. The 8 centers, you know which 8 centers they are. I am giving you some examples here. Financial center, aviation, shipping, trade, innovation, technology, aviation centers, and so on. And then new growth engine, that's Northern Metropolis. There are going to be 4 major zones for promoting development. 4 major regions, that is professional services, logistics, innovation, technology, and then boundary economic belt, conservation, and so on. So it's diversified development with synergy, because we want to strive for development. At the same time, we want to improve our living condition. We want better living environment. We want more space. And so that's why to the east of the Northern Metropolis, there is a major eco habitat and conservation areas, as well as tourism areas. Very soon, we're going to announce the overall development framework for the Northern Metropolis. And then next, if we want to develop the economy and strive for development, of course, it has to do with the property market and the stock market. Now, I've listened to the views of many, and my decision is always to strive for a balance. Now, some suggested we needed to do more, but others suggested we should refrain from doing something, because we're talking about some expensive scope. And so I've first, I have reduced the stock transactions, stock stamp duty to the previous level before the last increase. Why am I doing that? Because we need to ensure liquidity in the stock market. We don't want stock stamp duty to undermine our liquidity. And also, we need to compete with other markets. If we, by lowering the stamp duty, we are enhancing our competitiveness. That's the second consideration. The third consideration is the impact on government revenue, because stock stamp duty is one of the major sources of revenue for the government. So that's why now I have struck a balance. So as announced in the policy address, I'm lowering the stock stamp duty rate to the one I mentioned in the policy address. Next, helping the property market or easing the decline. Now, this is now when we first announced the spicy measures at that time, there was serious rampant speculation in the market, and property prices were high. Now we've considered all the factors, including the high interest rates around the world, the challenges we face with our economy, and we're also seeing adjustments in property prices. And also, we are seeing various challenges. The wealth effect is such that certain economic activities are affected too. So that's why, having balanced all the factors, so I have reduced the spicy measures for speculation from 3 years to 2 years, because now the property market is not as heated. So it's because we have considered the overall situation for the property market. That's the first point. Secondly, for the buyer stamp duty and the stamp duty for new buyers, we have halved the rate. So, and then for talents we bring to Hong Kong, when they come here, we encourage them to take roots here. So instead of making them pay upfront and reimbursing them later. Now we will suspend the payment of stamp duty, so they will be more interested in buying a property here. And then we have 8 different blueprints in promoting development on cultural and creative industries, tourism. There's a tourism blueprint 2.0. That's an updated version of the current blueprint. And then we also have a blueprint on agriculture and fisheries, on Chinese medicine, on hydrogen energy, and also transport infrastructure. There are action agenda as well on our port and logistics, modern logistics development.
Also, we would like to make use of the cutting edges of Hong Kong. We want Hong Kong to benefit from our advantages and contribute to the long-term development in different areas. We're going to build Hong Kong into an international post-education hub. To put it simply, we want Hong Kong to become an international center of university education. Also, I promote the development of universities of applied science. We should have elite students from different areas. Apart from traditional subjects, we should also do more to help develop ourselves into 8 centers. And a lot of the development involves applied sciences. Also, I would make use of the advantages of Hong Kong to set up the Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy as well as the Hong Kong International Academy Against Corruption. In the Q&A session in the Legislative Council, I've heard the views of many Legislative Council members, and I think that we should promote the establishment of these academies. There are many topics here, so I'm not going to go into the details here. But I will talk about the measures of trawling for talents, and I would also like to tell you about my thoughts and rationale behind the measures to enhance the happiness of our citizens. No matter how hard the government works towards promoting economic growth, what is most important is that we want to enhance the happiness and well-being of our citizens. So we want to build a caring and inclusive society so that people can feel the warmth and they have hopes when they're living in Hong Kong. One of the measures is that we want to promote fertility, to build an environment conducive to childbearing. Understand that childbearing is a personal decision. And each family has its own consideration when it comes to childbearing. And there are lots of considerations behind. I have made reference to practices in other countries, including European countries, Southeast Asian countries. According to literatures and their practices, it shows that government policies alone is an uncertain factor whether it helps to boost fertility or not. Over the years, the birth rate in Hong Kong has been dropping. The birth rate dropped from 2.1% to 0.9%. I feel that it's hard to reverse this downward trend if we do not do anything. Therefore, I think that there should be government policies in place so that the society understands that the government actually hopes that the birth rate can increase in Hong Kong. I remember that during my childhood period, there were government policies in place asking people to give birth to only 2 children. a number of families, they had 4 or even 5 children. However, even though there was this government policy in place or promotion in place, it wasn't able to completely change people's mindset of giving birth. Well, over the years, there weren't any policies from the government to promote fertility, so I wish to roll out this policy this year to send out a clear message to people that boosting the birth rate is going to benefit Hong Kong. I also hope to make use of our advantages in the medical sector. The healthcare sector and medical sectors in Hong Kong is doing well compared to the rest of the world. We have a lot of renowned scientists and experts in this area. And in the long run, Hong Kong is going to be one of the cities with the highest expectancies in the world. So I want to make use of our advantages in the healthcare sector and the medical sector. We do have the advantages to have our own regulatory agencies to approve drugs. We have to do a lot of work in order to be able to achieve that. We have to have the recognition from other countries. So we want to be able to achieve the primary evaluation approach. On another note, we are increasing housing supply continuously. We understand that this is a topic close to a lot of people's heart. So after years of hard work, we've been able to enhance speed, efficiency, and quality of housing. In the long run, well, in terms of the long-term policy, well, we will need 440,000 housing units in the next 10 years. And in terms of public rental housing units, we'll need 308,000 of them. We have identified enough land to build 410,000 units. So in the coming 10 years, we will be able to build 100,000 more compared to our set targets. But 10 years is too long, so we have implemented short-term measures, including light public housing scheme as well as the transitional housing scheme. We've also streamlined some of the procedures in building housing units. So this is going to help enhance the speed and quantity of housing units. There are also issues that we want to tackle, including subdivided units. I believe that we all agree that we have to tackle issues concerning subdivided units. Some people are living in inadequate housing environment. I visited some of the subdivided housing units myself, and I felt bad for people who live there. However, for some subdivided units, the living environment is actually quite good, and some of them are quite expensive. Some people who rent subdivided units because it's close to where they work or where they go to school, and they may have their own properties. So in order to tackle issues of subdivided units, I've established a task force on tackling the issue of subdivided units. I have proposed 4 directions for this task force. Apart from setting targets or standards, what is important is that we have to tackle the issue in an orderly manner. Most people living in subdivided units are families. I hope that they all have adequate living environments, so we have to address the issue in an orderly manner, and we want to tackle the issue in the long run. So I asked this task force to address the problem by eliminating substandard subdivided units. So I'm giving 10 months to the task force to come up with a report on land supply. We have to have land in order to build more housing units, so we have to enhance speed in this regard. In terms of urban renewal, I think it is close to many people's hearts, so urban renewal together with building safety are covered in my policy address. There will be 3 new smart and green mass transit systems. And I plan to build these mass transit systems in East Kowloon, Kai Tak, Hung Shui Kiu, Ha Chun. And the details are all set out in the policy address, so I won't go into the details here. In terms of 3 railway and 3 road projects, I emphasize them in my policy address because transportation, it's close to many people's heart. People use public transport to go to work, to go to school, and even go for entertainment. I am enhancing the alignments of these 3 railway and 3 road projects, and I've heard people's views on this. In the coming press conferences, we'll elaborate the details on these projects. Also, I'm adding 2 railway and 1 road projects. And this is ideas from the government side after listening to people's views. Also, we want to build a caring society. We want to take care of our elderly people. Due to an aging population, I stress the promotion of silver economy. I also emphasize the support given to people with disabilities as well as their carers. In terms of child protection and alleviating poverty and support given to ethnic minorities as well as women's development, there are relative or corresponding measures proposed in the policy address. There is also support to labor force and training, etc. And all these details are covered in the policy address. The relevant policy bureaus will hold press conferences to elaborate the details of these measures. In the interest of time, I'm going to focus on 2 areas here. In terms of trawling for talents, enterprises, and training local talents, well, let me give you a summary on our work on attracting talents. We've yielded some results. They are very encouraging results. And our results prove that our policy direction has been correct, and we are going to keep following the same path as we take forward these policies in order to achieve our ultimate goals. In terms of trawling for enterprises, our Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, it has reached out to 30 different enterprises. They're all strategic and potential enterprises, and they've already established their presence here involving $30 billion, and they will create 10,000 job opportunities. In terms of attracting talents, we have received 160,000 applications. 100,000 of them have been approved, and 60,000 people have already come to Hong Kong. According to our KPI from our previous policy address, we were targeting to attract 35,000 people a year. So we have exceeded our target. In terms of trawling for enterprises, well, we want to attract more foreign companies to establish their branches in Hong Kong. We have our own attractiveness, and we also can showcase attractiveness of the mainland. For expatriates in Hong Kong, if they work for their companies in Hong Kong, that is, foreign staff of companies in Hong Kong, they can apply for multiple entry visa if they want to visit mainland. And this is going to encourage more foreign companies to set up branches in Hong Kong. Also, we're going to develop headquarters economy. There are two aspects to it. In the Belt and Road Summit, I have mentioned about this. Over the past few years, for countries involving in the Belt and Road Initiative, the number of them setting up companies in Hong Kong have doubled over the past 5 years. And this is concerning the Belt and Road Initiative. Also, we want to attract companies from other countries not participating in the Belt and Road Initiative. We want them to establish headquarters and corporate divisions here. We've talked to mainland authorities to roll out facilitation measures. There are facilitation measures in place to attract capital and to facilitate foreign companies to set up branches in Hong Kong. Also, we want to encourage foreign companies to re-domicile in Hong Kong. For those companies who would like to re-domicile in Hong Kong, they do not have to dismiss the company before coming to Hong Kong. There will be a seamless procedure facilitating them to get registered in the foreign countries before re-domiciling in Hong Kong. In terms of trawling for talents, we will set up a physical office of the Hong Kong Talent Engage. In the last policy address, we advocated for a Hong Kong Talent Engage or talent service window or unit, but this time there will be a physical office to take care of the needs of talents who are coming to Hong Kong, including their needs in healthcare or schooling. Also, we're going to expand the coverage of universities under the Top Talent Pass scheme. There will be 8 more top-notch institutions under the list, and we're going to relax visa requirements for people from Vietnam and Nepal to attract people to come to Hong Kong to develop their careers. Also, we're going to implement the capital investment entrance scheme. We're going to make investments. For those who make investments of $30 million, they will be eligible for the scheme. We also want to retain talents to develop their careers in Hong Kong, especially those who graduate from the vocational and professional training courses. We want to attract more people to attend these courses. In terms of nurturing local talents, first of all, we're going to set up the Hong Kong Information Institute. We need a lot of talents in information and technology, and we want to develop Hong Kong into an international INT hub. Without INT development, we won't be able to have talents. So we're going to build an institute here. We are also going to increase the allowance for relevant apprentices. This scheme is going to help people from all walks of life to develop their skills and enhance knowledge. So we're going to boost the allowance for them. Also, there will be cross-border data sharing with the mainland authorities. And we are going to also enhance the subsidy for employees retraining. I'd like to talk a bit more about our policies to boost fertility. I have proposed a major policy here to support families with newborns. For each newborn, there will be $20,000 of cash bonus. It is an incentive for people to give birth, and we are hoping to send a clear message that we want to encourage people to give birth. $20,000 is going to help people cover some expenses, of course. More importantly, we are sending a clear message to people that we encourage childbearing, and we're offering support to people who would like to give birth.
So apart from the cash bonus, we are giving more tax deduction amounts. For example, for taxpayers who live with their first child born, there will be tax allowance. There's also priority arrangements for the sale of subsidized flats. That is families with newborns flat selection priority scheme. There's also a priority arrangement for public rental housing allocation. This is similar to the schemes for the elderly. So we are actually, making use of existing measures to promote, encourage childbearing. And as I said, apart from subsidized sale flats, there's also priority arrangement for public rental housing. Again, this scheme is similar to one for elderly. So for families with newborns, they will be given priority in flat allocation. We're going to support assisted reproductive services too. Now, for couples who opt for assisted reproductive technology, that means already that they are keen to have children. So we should actually give them help. So we're going to increase the public service quota by 60% to 1,100 cycles. And we also provide tax deduction of $100,000 for assisted reproductive services. And then for families with children, of course, we need to give them support too. So for working family allowance and child allowance, we are increasing that by 15%. We're also going to increase the number of child care center places by 900. We're also giving more in child care center parent subsidy of up to $1,000 per month. And then we're going to extend the after-school care program for pre-primary children to cover all districts. So for toddlers under the age of 3, we're going to provide more after-school care places. And we're going to strengthen home-based child care services as well. We're doubling the quota, actually. We're also increasing the relevant allowances. So that's all I'd like to highlight today for you. Now I welcome questions from the floor. Now the floor is open to questions. If you wish to ask questions, please raise your hand. Now I see many hands here. If I may remind you again, please first identify the organization you represent, and please limit yourself to no more than 2 questions, and please be concise as far as possible. First, on the left, the first row, over there, please. Chief Executive, I'm from Xinhua News Agency. On dovetailing with the country's strategy in strengthening the 8th sense of Hong Kong, you have come up with many new initiatives, in particular in leveraging on the advantage of Hong Kong as a financial center. You have various measures, and also you are trying to build a caring community and add to people's happiness. So, as an international financial center, how are you going to enhance Hong Kong's competitiveness so you could better support the country's development? The financial center of Hong Kong is of great importance. It's actually our top priority. Has always been our strength. And we are actually among the top-ranking international financial centers in the world. So if we leverage further on this advantage, it will benefit us on many fronts. Now, in the policy address, I mentioned the various initiatives to further promote Hong Kong as an international financial center. So first, we want to boost market liquidity. That's why I am going to lower the stock stamp duty rate. And there are other measures too in relation to Hong Kong status as an international financial center. And you see that we have taken special measures. We have a new task force. We have a task force to promote our development, and so they've come up with various measures. It's more than just about lowering the stock stamp duty rate. It's also about enhancing our competitiveness on various fronts. For example, the spread, the trading spread, and also revitalizing the secondary market. On the whole, we'd like to lower the cost of transactions. That's why there is also a new scheme on the data fees, advisory service fees, and so on. And then we need to bring more companies to list here for IPOs in particular. And we also have this repurchase mechanism of stocks by companies without undermining fairness in the market. Now, for our stock market, it's suspended in inclement weather, and I believe there's need for reform here as well. So that's about so in terms of cost on the processes and the benefits brought about by more IPOs in Hong Kong and so on. We need to compare ourselves with other markets. We need to make sure that that we are competitive with other markets. I've asked the Securities and Futures Commission to work closely with the Hong Kong Exchange to study the recommendations of the task force so we could implement them. So that's one aspect. Also in the policy address, now we did not highlight it, but actually the Belt and Road Initiative would help our development as a financial market because the financial center could contribute much to the Belt and Road Initiative. And then there are countries which may raise raise funds in Hong Kong. So we have to consider different developments here. And also we need to strengthen our status as an offshore renminbi center. We are already the largest offshore renminbi center in the world. We take up 70% of the RMB transactions in the world. But then we need to diversify RMB products further. This will help to strengthen our position as an international financial center. At the same time, we need to help promote the internationalization of RMB. And of course, all around the world, we're talking about promoting the development of green and sustainable finance. Well, in the financial markets in Hong Kong, we have various projects that promote green and sustainable finance, such as bond issuance and so on. And we have preferential treatment for such issuances and so on, so that will again help to strengthen Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. Next, please. On the right, on the left front row, the one in blue, please. I'm from the Hong Kong Economic Journal, Chief Executive. On stock stamp duty, for stamp duty for stock transactions or property transactions, usually it's the financial secretary that will deal with adjustments of the rates. But it's rather unusual that this time in the policy address you're making the announcement. So this seems to be a special arrangement. Are there any special reasons for that, or is it because as speculated, the financial secretary does not see eye to eye with you on reducing the spicy measures? Are you sidelining the financial secretary? Second question about subdivided units. 2 years ago, Xia Baolong has asked Hong Kong to eradicate the SDU problem. Now, 2 years later, in your policy address, you're going to set up a task force to address SDU issues, and you say it will take 10 months for you to do in-depth studies and surveys. Now, so it will take 10 months to complete the survey. Does it mean that you are actually addressing the pressing issues of the public? Now, on the stock stamp duty and on boosting on accepting the recommendation report of the task force on boosting our liquidity, and also on relaxing the spicy measures, well, I see eye to eye totally with the financial secretary. We share the same views. Given the current circumstances, we have to see when we need to act, and we believe it's time to act. So I think the views coming from different sectors. Actually, I am totally on the same page with the financial secretary on these issues. Sometimes I make the suggestions, sometimes he made the suggestions, because we collected many views, and so when we discussed the views, some said we should do more, some said we shouldn't do anything. So in this whole decision-making process, I'm very much encouraged, because we certainly share a team spirit, and I'm really happy to see that. We've also changed the way we work. So in the initial stage of receiving the views already, we've had plenty of discussions. And in the course of discussion, we would remind each other of various points, because only then could we come up with the best solutions. And then in the policy address last year, I already said we are the Hong Kong, we are a red team. That's the concept I floated. For example, when we want to do something, have we missed out any risks that and so that's why I thank the entire team, in particular the financial secretary, has rendered very professional advice to me, just to make sure that the policy measures I announced now are adequate to address the current market situation and the demands of the community. Now, on subdivided units, well, in the policy address and on many other occasions, we've talked about subdivided units. It's a measure that is a problem that's been around for a long time, because we do not have adequate supply of land and housing. It just did not happen overnight. We've tried to address the issue in the past, but we just came up with short-term measures mostly. There's never been a all-round comprehensive solution. That's the first point. Secondly, for anyone staying in subdivided units, whether the housing condition is adequate or not, to them, the SDU is their home. It's all about their home. So we shouldn't just consider the living condition. We can't just say because the living condition does not meet the government standards, so we ignore all other considerations. That's why I've stressed the importance of a gradual and progressive approach as we make improvements to the situation. So everybody knows that we proceed in a gradual manner. Now, there are about 110,000 SDUs involving some 200,000 people or so living in these SDUs, and not all of them actually live in inadequately housed SDUs. As I said, some SDUs have nice living condition, but of course they're only just as a portion of all the SDUs. So what we need to make sure is that we take a targeted approach with precision. We need to see what SDUs we need to target. So that's why we need to do consultation and find out more what people think. And that's why as we do the research and survey, we will take a targeted approach. Now, SDUs have been around for many years. We've never come up with a comprehensive solution. That's why we need to take this step. And we're doing that to tell the people that we are going to address the problem of inadequate housing, especially with SDUs. I think this is important. Now, in the past year, I've tried to reverse certain trends. So that's why I want to put a cap on the waiting time for public rental housing. It's dropped from 6 years to 5.3 years. And then I also want to stop the trend of housing units becoming smaller and smaller. And then the living condition and living quality is getting poorer, and I need to reverse that trend too. And so it's the same with SDUs. Yes, there are other measures to safeguard the rights of SDU tenants. We stop the overcharging of utilities fees and so on. But we also need to reverse the trend about the worsening condition of SDUs. We need to set our targets, and we start working, and eventually we will meet that target. Thank you.
The gentleman on the right and the middle. Good afternoon, Chief Executive. I'm from CCTV. There are different highlights in the policy address. My question is, in deepening its integration with the Greater Bay Area and the overall national development, what are your strategies? Last July, President Xi Jinping came to Hong Kong and he said that Hong Kong will only thrive if the young people here prosper. What are your plans in terms of youth development? Thank you. When I took office and after I've taken office, well, in my last policy address, I proposed to set up a committee to help us deepen our integration with the Greater Bay Area as well as the overall national development. We want to promote the development in this area. I led the steering committee and 3 secretaries served as deputies. We want to promote Hong Kong's participation in Belt and Road Initiative as well as the National 14th Five-Year Plan. In this policy address, the most direct strategy in relation to this is to develop 8 centers. Under the 14th Five-Year National Plan, we have to have good planning in this regard. As mentioned, there are measures concerning the development of each of these 8 centers, and the policy direction is clear. So, first and foremost, we have to develop the 8 centers as instructed by President Xi, and we have to give full play to our advantages. We have to continue to strive for excellence. We're not as established as we want in our development of the 8 centers, so we have to do better. In terms of the development of the Greater Bay Area, Well, a fund has been proposed under the policy address to invest in different projects in the Greater Bay Area. That's one measure. These projects will benefit the society. And Hong Kong is one of the cities in the Greater Bay Area where the beneficiary as well as the facilitator. So we are working hard to promote these projects. In terms of the Belt and Road Initiative, under the instruction of Mr. Ding, the Vice President, Vice Premier, we want to give full play to advantages as an international financial center. We want to reinforce our status as an international financial center. We also have to give full play to advantages in professional services. We have to also strengthen cooperation under CIPA. We have professionals which meet the international standards, and they are going to play the role in building or in the development of the Greater Bay Area. We need regional cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative. Therefore, we work with the ASEAN countries, and we also want to do better in terms of striving for accession to RCEP. That is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Also, we want to promote people-to-people bonds. Apart from developing an arts and cultural exchange center, we want to do better in education. We want to develop Hong Kong into an international university center, a hub of international or an international hub for higher education. We want to promote people-to-people connectivity. Apart from fostering developments in these areas, we want our students to have exchanges with students from other countries or places, and we want them to have a broader horizon. There may not be explicit wordings in the policy address to state how Hong Kong integrates itself into the Greater Bay Area or how it strives to promote regional cooperation. But by developing trade and developing different centers, we are aligning ourselves with the Belt and Road Initiative strategies. Youth development is key. President Xi proposed the 4 musts and 4 proposals. That is, Hong Kong will only prosper if young people here thrive. Last year, we promulgated the Youth Development Blueprint, which covered 160 initiatives. It's going to be a long-term job that we're going to take forward. They're going to be taken forward continuously, and these initiatives are going to help our young people. This year's policy address has elaborated further on the details on initiatives, such as the Young People Network. We're going to provide venues for young people to take part in different activities. We're launching the Youth Link. If this is successful, we're going to broaden this initiative. We're going to also launch the Youth Development Summit. Through exchanges, there will be new ideas and opportunities. and the entire society agrees with our policy direction. I think we have yielded results in terms of our publicity and promotion. There's going to be a new alliance, which is called the Alliance of Hong Kong Youth Innovation and Entrepreneurial Bases in the Greater Bay Area. This is an important alliance because we understand a lot of young people want to start their own businesses. And they also have dreams to strive for innovation. However, they may not know how to seek help, and they may want more resources. Therefore, we propose to set up this alliance. We want to make use of the experiences of young people, and so that young people can have the support they need. We have some 160 initiatives under the Youth Development Blueprint, and they are there to promote youth development. As mentioned, we want to develop Hong Kong into an international education hub. We want to establish universities of applied sciences. This is an important part in promoting youth development. Thank you. The lady at the front, please. I'm from Singtao. On childbearing policy, I think as a woman, whether to give birth or not, we do not just take into consideration money, but also housing. How likely do you think young people will be encouraged to give birth? Well, $20,000 is not even enough for hiring a nanny to take care of a woman who has just given birth. Also, we see from the policy address that there will be the Kai-Tak transport system and also the columbarium in Sandy Ridge. We've seen chaos in the cruise terminal. We've also seen complaints from from people in Sandy Ridge. So I wonder if the government has listened to the views of people to come up with these measures. Well, what I want to say is that it's important for any government to take into consideration people's views. So I really want to thank those who have offered their views to me as I drafted the policy address. The government needs to take into account the needs of people, but whether we're able to address people's needs, we have to listen to people's views. Regardless of the reasons behind my proposal of different measures, well, I adopt a result-oriented approach. I have listened to views from people. I think what is important is that I come up with policies that are going to address people's needs and concerns. That's why I proposed to build 3 new smart and green mass transit systems. And I think these systems are going to address people's needs and concerns. That's why I propose to take forward these projects. It doesn't matter how I came up with these measures. What is important is whether people can benefit from these measures. In terms of promoting fertility, as I said, I've drawn reference from practices from other countries. Some of the practices are similar to what I have proposed here, and some of the practices I did not adopt them, and some of the measures proposed are new. According to literatures and practices in other countries, it's clear that government policies is just one of the factors that may help boost fertility, but they are not the major factor. It's because childbearing is a personal and important decision of each family. Over the years, we do not have any major policies to boost fertility. Also, we're seeing an aging population. And we want to maintain our birth rate in Hong Kong. Also, we want to help families who really want to have children. We want to send out this strong and clear message to people. Regardless of how much cash we offer to people, it still shows that the government is willing to offer support to people who would like to give birth. And we need different factors to boost fertility. It's not just down to one factor or one policy. We see government policies' limitations in the practices of other countries. And we also propose measures to encourage people to work and also give birth at the same time. We all want our children to have a good life. Therefore, in my policy address, I stress that we want to enhance people's happiness. And we strive to pursue economic growth and development. Government has a role to play, but the community as well as the business sectors and different sectors also have their roles to play. The government is responsible for building a caring and inclusive society, of course, but to build a better Hong Kong, we all have a role to play, and everyone in Hong Kong should work towards creating a caring and inclusive society in their own positions.
Next to the left, in the middle row.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lee. Some English questions from the South China Morning Post. The first question is regarding the relaxing of the stamp duties in this year's policy address. Who's the government targeting to help with these measures to reduce the stamp duties in terms of property? Is it prospective homeowners, developers, or even current homeowners? And are you worried that these measures would overstimulate the market instead? The second question is about the overall general direction of the policy address. Some critics would say that your policy address this year does not have a strong direction to boost the local economy. Instead, the government is seeming to rely on the property market as it has before to strengthen the economy. What do you think about this view? Thank you.
When the stringent measures relating to property prices were introduced, it was a time when speculation was very high, when the trend of property prices kept going up, and also people's attention seemed to focus on property speculation, and making quick money was the goal. After the introduction of those measures and in the recent examination of situation, first of all, interest rate has gone up and it will remain high. Geopolitical situation is going to be complicated. The whole world is facing pressure in regard to economic development. And also, the property price have already been going down from its height. So the question the government needs to answer is, should all these measures be made permanent, or should we at some stage look at whether there should be some change? In my consultation, I have heard a lot of suggestions strong voices as well. Some ask for a lot to be done or undone. So the government has to come to a decision after making an assessment of the situation of Hong Kong, which includes not just locally, but also internationally, because property market is highly affected by interest rate, by economic situation, and also by sentiment. I have come to this stage after taking into consideration of all these things that it is time to relax some measures. And that is why I have done what I have announced. Is it the right balance? I think it is, because it is important that at one stage, when we do any change of relaxation, then we maintain stability in the market. So, considering all factors, I think what I have just introduced is a right mix of measures, of some measures being retained and some measures being relaxed. The main objective of the government policy in regard to property is that we want the market to be stable. We do not want big changes in either side, because we want people, when they make a decision about buying a property, which is one of the most important decisions for a lot of families, they will be able to make a good judgment, good decision as a result of government policy, as a result of government explanation of its assessment of the situation. And we hope that through introduction of these changes, then society of Hong Kong will know the position of the government, and then they can make a sensible decision based on their own situation. I think I have answered you both questions.
下一位提問呢，右手
Next, please, to the right in the middle, the gentleman over there. I'm from Ta Kung Pao. First question on trawling for talents. You said you wanted to attract 35,000 talents, and you've now reached the target. As for the capital investment entrance scheme, do you think the scheme is competitive? How much capital do you want to bring to Hong Kong? Second question, for some enterprises or talents who've come to Hong Kong, they find that the efficiency of the government has been enhanced. What about the Northern Metropolis development? Do you have any measures to boost efficiency or promote more collaboration? On trawling for enterprises and talents, you know, this is an ongoing effort. It's not just us trawling for enterprises and talents. All over the world, countries are seeking talents and enterprises. It's like when you're doing rowing a boat. If you stop, then the others are still rowing the boat. So you need to compete in terms of speed and intensity. Now, with competition, of course, some will lose, some will win. Of course, I would love to see win-win, but, you know, in reality, there may be others who are doing better than us, and if that's the case, then we lose out on opportunities. So that's why competition is an ongoing effort. We need to make sure that we remain competitive compared to other places. In my first policy address, I first suggested trawling for enterprises and talents. At that time, you know, it's a matter of urgency. That's why we use the word snatch, actually. Snatching enterprises and snatching talents. Why? Why did we use such a term? or competing for talents and enterprises, because what we want people to know is a matter of urgency. And if we don't compete for talents, then others will get hold of those enterprises and talents. So it's it's something we cannot let down on let our efforts down in a way. And then for the top talent pass scheme, we are including 8 more universities. It's actually a targeted approach. These 8 universities cover those who are ranked high in, say, hotel studies or applied sciences and so on. So they are to support the development of our 8 centers, especially in terms of technological development. Thank you for telling me just now that many in the community believe that the government's efficiency has improved. Well, it's good, but we must not stop improving. And as I say, we are always competing with time. We are trying to compete for projects and so on. And so we may need to speed up some projects. Say for the North Metropolis, you mentioned that in particular, what can we do to speed up the development there? Now in the policy address, I mentioned that for any works projects, there are various ways to boost efficiency. For example, smart application of technology or BEAM and so on. There are various ways to boost efficiency, as I said. And then there are other measures that are project-based, but now these have become standard measures. So there's no need to do the calculation again for each project. Instead, there's a standardized approach. And then there are various administrative measures to boost efficiency. For example, we have we'll make legal reforms. There are also administrative measures. For example, with food business licensing. It's no longer just about developments in the northern metropolis, because we have simplified the process for license application. So it's not project specific. And there's also another approach to give application first before doing vetting or processing. We have professionals to help us with that. So it's not just the government acting alone, but rather we are trying to make use of resources in the community. So we're going to boost efficiency on all fronts. For the Northern Metropolis, there are 4 regions. That means specialization in terms of project management. So if we have a theme for a different region and then we focus our effort accordingly, that means a better efficiency. So we have 4 different regions. This is also a way to enhance efficiency. If you have everything in the same region, then it's not as efficient. But if, say, put logistics in one region, then that's better synergy, and as a result, efficiency. So these are the concepts we adopt. So we have included these elements on different fronts. We also have industrialization. So there will be industry-led economic activities, and that will also help to boost efficiency. Thank you.
The reporter on the left.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lee, Hong Kong Free Press. I concern that the last effort in 2003 to enact Article 23 resulted in the then largest protests in history and the resignation of top officials. And do you agree or disagree with your colleagues that those demonstrations were a result of foreign interference? And second, the biggest crisis facing the city is, of course, the climate crisis, like everywhere. But your policy address was rather thin again on new green initiatives. The measures you announced, appear to be more reactive than proactive when it comes to recent weather, and the hydrogen, issue is not so developed. So, with the city powered by coal, hardly any electric buses or taxis, supermarket packaging out of control, in light of the recent severe weather, why do we lag behind China on this issue?
First of all, I think if you ask any government what will be one of their priorities, then any government will say that is to fulfill its constitutional duty. Article 23 is stated in the Basic Law, which the Hong Kong, as our government, has not been able to fulfill for over 20 years. Constitutional responsibility is one of the key areas for any government to be serious about. So yes, while we will develop our economy to help people's livelihood, we cannot forget the government also has constitutional responsibility. Without constitution, I think things will become chaotic. So yes, we will do Article 23 enactment in 2024. Any country places strong emphasis on protection national security. I don't know which country you come from. I'm sure your country has a lot of legislation to protect national security. 2019 riots, black violence, and the attempted color revolution happened because of the obvious vacuum situation on legislation regarding national security. We have suffered badly. We have learned it through pain. We thank the Hong Kong National Security Law for establishing the stability and security for Hong Kong, and that is why we all can now sit this peacefully to go about our day-to-day duty. If this was still 2019, when all the violence is still happening, when you could all of a sudden be grabbed by one of the black rioters, stripped, insulted, and seriously beaten up, that will not allow Hong Kong to progress in any way. Yes, we will protect Hong Kong's security, national security. And Hong Kong national security law also require Hong Kong to enact Article 23 as quickly as possible. Foreign interference with Hong Kong's affair, it is still happening. I think you don't need me to particularly point you out to any examples, but
in 2003?
we will be doing consultation in regard to enactment of Article 23. We did not succeed in 2003. I would say it is because of, in some way, not being able to make people understand very properly what Article 23 can do for them in a positive way. And I think after the 2019 harm and troubles, people understand how national security is an important factor for stability, for continuing our normal day-to-day life. And I think the answer is very simple. We'll ensure that people will understand what the eventual legislation will do, will protect them, and will ensure that they will go about their day-to-day duty, day-to-day activities freely, happily, and also without worry about security threats, particularly national security threats. In regard to climate change, I do not think you have read the policy address in good detail, and also have ignored all the action plan and strategies that have been announced and being implemented in Hong Kong. In regard to climate change, first of all, we have a few years ago published our action plan in regard to climate matters. We have also implemented a series of measures to, first of all, encourage people to use cleaner vehicles. That is why we have some incentive schemes for people to switch from fuel-generated cars to electric cars. We have set 2015 to be the year for us to be carbon neutral. We have also set 2035 to be the year where we reduce the carbon emission by 50% compared to 2005 standard. We have also announced that by 2035 we will no longer allow cars which is fuel generated to be registered. We are rolling out a lot of measures to control solid waste. We are rolling out measures to encourage recycling. We are building new power generating facilities which will use solid waste to generate power. So we are doing a lot, and we are now actively promoting installation of charging facilities for electric cars, and the policy address introduced different measures to also make use of new energy in our vehicle fleet, also in ensuring that Hong Kong's, say, refilling of fuel for ships will be using green energy. We are also talking about how we will develop hydrogen in our vehicle fleet and other area of green development. We have been promoting Hong Kong by making use of Hong Kong's financial center with a program called Core Climate, so people can make use of our financial facilities to trade carbon emission. So we have a long list of measures, and I advise you to go and also study in detail. But of course, there will be other measures we'll roll out, either in this year or in my next year's policy address.
下一位記者嘅提問啦，右手邊前排嘅男記者。
Next question, the gentleman at the front. Good afternoon, Chief Executive. I'm from TVB. I would like to ask about home prices and affordability of people. Some people are still not able to afford homes. Is it the right timing for you to scrap the spicy measures? Do you expect a rise in home prices after the lifting of the spicy measures? Another question is about boosting fertility. If you want to promote childbirth, why are you picking today? Why are you drawing a line today? Newborns who are given birth today or after, they're going to get $20,000. Why are you drawing the line here today? Also, as mentioned, government policies may not have direct relation with the childbirth in Hong Kong. Do you think this is an arbitrary policy from the government to boost fertility, and how come there isn't a KPI in this regard? Thank you. When we consider making changes to the spicy measures, we have to take into consideration what you've mentioned, that is, whether it will lead to big changes to home prices, and we have to consider people's affordability as well.
的確係按住一啲情況而引進嘅需求管理措施。
These demand-side management measures were implemented according to the circumstances at the time.
比當時推出需求
I've
措施嘅
read reports saying that the home prices now
差別好大。
are similar to that when we rolled out the demand-side management measures.
針對性、時限性嘅措施。
These are targeted measures and time-specific measures. Are we going to regularize them, or are we going to make changes to them based on the actual circumstances? This is the question that the government has to answer. As we conducted the consultation, we have heard many views, and these views have helped me make a decision. And when I come up with a decision, I tried to strike a balance between different factors. I've taken into considerations the current home prices, the current interest rate, and the global pressure or the global environment.
你頭先所問嘅問題，都係每一次決定改動與否。
So in relation to the question you asked,
綜合考慮之後，
this is a question that I have to ask myself every time when I decide whether to revise the demand-side management measures or not. And after considering all the factors, I think it is appropriate for me to roll out changes to these measures. Secondly, on promoting fertility, well, I think we need to give encouragement to citizens in Hong Kong.
係佢個人決定。
Family decisions may not be changed easily just because you tell them a certain thing. The Hong Kong government want to encourage people to give birth. Well, should I encourage people to give birth today or tomorrow? My view is that if I'm telling people that they should give birth, it's hard for me to make a judgment whether to implement the measure yesterday, today, or tomorrow. I just want to send out a clear message to people that I am promoting fertility here and I am taking actions right away. I want to present a clear attitude and viewpoint to the society about this measure. That's all for the press conference today. Thank you.
多謝晒你哋啊！多謝晒。
我諗係咪而家應該拎佢呢個係咪就係佢好多部分身嘅呢個？頭先佢一路講緊嘅時候，都呢個已經出現咗。邊個先？咁邊個？